Hey everyone, it's Andrew Morgan, host of the Nomcast, the Netflix original movie podcast. Each week we review the biggest Netflix original movies with special guests ranging from film professionals to comedians to podcasters like Johnny Ganache from the legendary Pint. Listen and subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts, and be sure to follow us on Twitter at NomcastPod.
Hi there, I'm Lloyd.
And I'm John, and we're from Pint. As we dive into your favorite pop culture topics, we may just
Occasionally
use language that could be considered
globaloney.
What? No, I mean...
Oh, foul.
Exactly. Offensive.
No doubt. Crass.
You bet your ass.
Sophisticated.
What? No. Anyways, you get it by now. It's mostly just
gutter talk.
And one more thing. Watch out for spoilers. Sometimes we drop them like trousers. You've been warned.
Listen in.
Some films are destined to be known as pure trash, whether through bad critical reviews, poor audience scores, or even troubled productions. These films live with the brand of being terrible. We here at The Pint know that all of these films cannot be as bad as reputed. Some are actually just so-so, while others are actually pretty good. Our mission? Watch these films and determine if they deserve their legacy of awfulness and report our findings back to you. This is Trash, Tolerable, or Treasure.
Release Chase. This is between you and me.
And me. And me.
You've been sucking Gotham's brainwaves, and now you've devised a way to read men's minds.
You betcha!
Soon my little box will be on countless TVs around the world, feeding me credit card numbers, bank codes, sexual fantasies, and little white lies.
Once again, back with the incredible, the rhyme animal, the incannibal, the Public Enemy number one. No, it's Pint. That's a Public Enemy song. That's Bring the Noise. We are back. It is episode whatever. We don't do this in order, so we don't mention that an awful lot. You know what's funny is our guest tonight came out the week we were recording this. And on that episode, I said, this is probably around episode 160. And I just decided to put that episode out this week. And as I heard that, it was actually episode 160. So that worked out with serendipity, baby. I am Ganache. With me, as always, is the Manster. Manster, what's brand new and spanking?
I'm here.
What's new, man?
Oh, holy Toledo, Batman. Not much is new, just kicking away the same old kind of thing.
Same old. We're trying not to talk too much COVID anymore. It's getting old.
No,
I will go there. This week, somebody I work with was positive, so I had to get a COVID test, and I'm negative. I was out of work for 3 days waiting results. And let me tell you, if you ever want to get your skull fucked by a Q-tip, then go for a COVID test. It was not as uncomfortable as I had been told, or no, it wasn't painful.
Yeah, they made it out to be pretty bad.
They made it out to be medieval torture, but I'll tell you what, giant Q-tip about a half inch up past where any finger could go is one thing, but then once they start stirring it like the fucking Swedish chef on acid around your nostril for about 15 seconds, that is another feeling, and it is awkward as fuck. So, but I am COVID free. And just really weird time we're living in right now, but let's get past that. We're doing a Triple T episode tonight. This is another one that's been percolating, formulating. We've been waiting to get this guy on, and we had to push it back a couple times. It is one of the mics from Forgotten Cinema. He is also the Mike from Two Player Bros and the Mike from Cracking One Open, and he'll probably have 6 more podcasts by the time this comes out.
12. I've already done 3.
Probably
while
by
you were
the end of the
talking.
night.
Have you already done 3 more? Really?
No, I'm just joking.
Oh, Jesus. All right. It is Mike Butler. Mike, what's going on, man?
Nothing much. Just here waiting to talk about Batman Forever because it's been forever.
It has been forever. It has been forever. So I don't know how this all started. Did I ask you to come on for Batman Forever, or did I just say pick one of these movies? How did that happen?
It was a couple weeks. I feel like it was a couple weeks after we did the Phantom Menace one at Midnight Madness. And you reached out to me and said, hey, we're doing this Triple T show. Would you like to do Batman Forever? And you put Batman Forever out in the ether. Okay. I've gotten a couple.
That was forever ago.
That was forever ago. Yeah. Yeah. It takes a little time to get around to things sometimes here at Pint of Comics. So a lot of people have said this to me already when I told them we're doing Batman Forever. And the idea, you heard Andrew Morgan say it at the beginning of the show, trash, tolerable, or treasure. These are movies that are considered trash, and we're going to determine how we each feel about them. But a lot of people said, the obvious mark was Batman and Robin. That's why I did not pick Batman and Robin.
Too obvious.
It's too obvious, right? I mean, I'm not saying that someone can't come across and say it was tolerable, or there might be people out there that say it's treasure. But much like when we did Jaws 3D instead of Jaws the Revenge, Batman Forever is still a pretty, pretty hated movie by a lot of fandom. So I thought, you know what? There's enough podcasts out there that have done Batman and Robin. Let's touch the one that less people touch, right? And that's also that's my sexual advice too.
Yeah, that's my credo.
It's actually on Manster's t-shirt right now. Touch the one less people have touched. So again, I'm not going to give our handout yet, but Butler is super excited about doing this. And I wanted to ask you, Mike, because we've kind of alluded to this a few times on previous shows you've been on. How old are you? Like, what year were you born in?
I was born in 1987.
Okay, so Butler is a lot younger than Lloyd.
I'm 8 when this comes out.
That's what I'm getting to, is because this is something we've never really talked about on the Triple T. Is we talk about like the other movies that came out around the time. We talk about production issues. We never really factored in how old you were when this thing came out, and that does mean a lot to people, right, Lloyd? I mean,
I never thought of that.
Never thought of it, right? So Butler's 8 years old, right? I was 19. Okay, so that's where you put me. And I got a quick story for you. Batman Forever. I could not wait for it. I love the first 2 Batman movies, Returns and 89. And Forever, as far as I knew at the time, was going to be, like right in line with those. The previews and trailers were less out there at the time, so you couldn't like dissect them. There was no computer, internet, none of that shit. I couldn't wait to see this movie. And we talked a few weeks ago on an episode where when The Dark Knight came out, I got food poisoning and I had a hard time going to see it the week it came out. Batman Forever, which came out on June 16th, 1995, I'll always remember that day because I couldn't wait to go see it. And I got chickenpox that day at 19 years old. I was very sick for a full week, and I did not get to see Batman Forever for a full week in the theater. So I'll always equate this movie with chickenpox. And I'm not saying that's going towards my rating, but it's just a memory of that. Now, Mike, you were 8 years old, toys, video games, Happy Meals. Did this thing at the time completely encompass your life?
Well, first of all, one of my favorite film experiences I ever watched was Jurassic Park, and I saw that a week after I had chickenpox.
Oh, see, look at that.
We share a little thing.
We're chickenpox brothers.
But yeah, Batman Forever. He had so many outfits come out with that when that movie came out. So many different action figures. Same with Returns. I had the Batcave. I had the 89 Batmobile. I had the Batman Forever Batmobile. I had all the Robins. I had Two-Face. I had all of that. This was the Happy Meal toys I obviously had, and the cups and stuff like that. So I was big on Batman when I was a kid.
Okay. Damn, you're coming from it from a totally different place.
Exactly.
Yeah. And Manster,
I was excited to do this.
And Manster, where were you at that point? Was there any like excitement level, or was it just like, whatever?
For me, it was more, whatever. I was 29 in 95. I was just about getting married. As a matter of fact, funny story, I may have mentioned this before. I was dating my wife at this time, and we had tickets to go see David Letterman. And it was right around the time this was coming out. I remember because we were in the front row of David Letterman when he was playing at the, what do you call that place? The Ed Sullivan Theater?
Yes.
Front row. We were on camera for quite a bit. He came out with a little golf ball. He hit the little golf ball, little plastic golf ball. He hit it right into me. I caught it. Actually, I didn't catch it. It bounced off my hand, and someone behind me caught it and went up on stage. I got to talk to Letterman. He introduced this movie. He called it Batman Fever.
You know, it might be
one of the new movies out at the time. You know,
might be a better title actually than Batman Forever.
Batman Fever.
All right, Batman Forever. Now we're going to get into. We'll talk a little bit about the kind of history of the movie. Then we'll get into our likes and dislikes, and then we'll rate it at the end. We'll talk box office, we'll talk cast, we'll do all the usual stuff. So Batman Forever comes out, starts to become a thing of fruition. And here's, I'm going to paraphrase a quote from Tim Burton. Tim Burton, the director of the first two Batman movies, who ended up not doing anything on this one other than producing. He said that Batman Forever sounded like something someone would write in a yearbook or get on a tattoo. He was not a fan of the title, but here's the kicker. When Tim Burton was connected to do Batman 3, which he was at one point, his preferred title was Batman Continues. So he has no fucking room because that's a terrible, like Batman Forever at least sounds, it kind of rolls off the tongue when you see it on the logo. After a while, it just okay, Batman Forever. Batman Continues. I don't know. Do you guys think that sounds as shitty as I do? I'll start with you, then I'll go to Lloyd real quick. Batman Continues. Is that as shitty of a title as I think it is?
Oh, yeah. Batman Continues. Batman Returns is also kind of like, it's kind of got a horror movie vibe. Like Batman's like a monster, which is cool because that's how the criminals see him. But it's still, they're not very good titles. Dark Knight, The Batman, that's all cool. But at some point, they're going to run out of like the Great Detective or whatever they call him. And then what are you going to call it after that?
Right.
I just think it's hard to name movies that are like Superman, Batman, Spider-Man. I mean, look at the Spider-Man titles. They've all got home in the title now because they just can't think of anything.
Yeah, that's just fucking
They're just
terrible.
being silly. It's just put numbers.
Yeah. Yeah. Lloyd, you feel the same thing? Continues? That just sounds stupid, right?
Yeah, it sounds stupid, but it's more in the vein of Batman Returns, Batman Continues. It's more along the vein of that, but I don't like Batman Forever. I think it makes no sense at all. It's nothing related to the movie whatsoever. Come up with something better, something different.
I think it would have been better if it starred Method Man and it was Batman Forever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if it had like that kind of
Batman Forever.
that kind of thing. Directed by the recently deceased Joel Schumacher. Joel made 8mm, which we talked about very recently on a Pint Movie Invitational. The Lost Boys, DC Cab. He made DC Cab. This thing, now here's the writing pedigree of this movie. The story was by a husband and wife team, Lee and Janet Scott Batchelor. Their story ended up being rewritten by the final scriptwriter, Akiva Goldsman. Akiva Goldsman wrote the script for The Client, which was also a Joel Schumacher movie. Lost in Space, The Dark Tower, very recently, Rings, which I think was the recent Ring reboot that nobody saw. The reason Joel Schumacher's making this movie is McDonald's. McDonald's got very mad at Warner Brothers for they had a deal for Happy Meals, which did come out, and kids are going and getting Happy Meals with for Batman Returns with, the Catwoman, who's essentially a S&M female villain, this grotesque penguin. And this is a huge summer movie that ends up making $150 million less than Batman 89, has all these dark characters, and McDonald's ends up canceling the promotion. And essentially Warner Brothers said, we cannot do another Batman movie with Tim Burton at the helm. Butler, you talk about movies an awful lot. Is this like corporations getting way too involved? Like the pinnacle of it almost.
Oh, absolutely. This is up there. But at the same time, who didn't show the McDonald's executives the concept art or the storyboards or parts of the film? Who was it at McDonald's that really dropped the ball? I mean, I have those toys. I had the collectible cups.
Yeah.
And I got one of the cups was the Skull Crew that attacks at the Christmas tree lighting.
Yes, yeah.
I remember as a kid, I'm looking at that. We hadn't seen Batman Returns yet. And I'm like, as a kid, I'm like, this is scary as shit. This is not for kids. And I mean, I saw it. And I love Batman Returns, but it is definitely like my little brother's was a little bit more like sensitive to that kind of stuff. So that's like, well, he's not seeing that with us and stuff like that. So I can see where McDonald's is coming from, but who the hell's not showing McDonald's what they're doing?
Yeah.
Like I know that Lego gets to see all the Marvel movies a year in advance to start making those play sets. Somebody at McDonald's definitely dropped the ball.
All right.
That's not Warner Brothers' fault.
They were more worried about the Monopoly game.
Yeah, really. Yeah. So they ended up telling Warner Brothers, if you're going to do another one and you want to deal with us, it can't have Tim Burton. So Tim Burton, who was working on Batman Continues, moves along. Joel Schumacher comes in. Janet Scott and Lee Batchelor, they write the original script. Now, here are some differences, and a lot of things from their script ended up being used in the Akiva Goldsman script, but there were some things that were not. First of all, Two-Face was not one of the villains. It was going to be Scarecrow. And when Tim Burton was working on this as Batman Continues, Scarecrow was going to be played. Burton wanted Brad Dourif. That would have been awesome. Unfortunately, we didn't get that. Catwoman was going to be in that movie, so Michelle Pfeiffer most likely would have returned playing the character. And the Riddler was going to be completely psychotic, and he was going to have this giant pet rat that was always on his shoulder. These were some of the elements they did not do. Do you think any of those, Manster, Scarecrow played by Brad Dourif instead of Two-Face, Michelle Pfeiffer back, remember, she's white gold, and Riddler, psychotic Riddler, with a pet rat, would those have made Batman Continues a better movie than Batman Forever?
Scarecrow played by Brad Dourif, absolutely. I can't see the current the Jim Carrey iteration of Riddler with Scarecrow by Brad Dourif together. That would just not mesh for me. I don't see how they could make that work. But maybe Crazy Psychotic if it wasn't Jim Carrey, maybe.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, definitely Scarecrow. I would rather see that movie.
All right, so you're showing your cards a little bit there, but okay, good. Returns made $150 million less than 89, so these guys start retooling everything. One of the first notes that they told Schumacher they wanted was this had to be made for, which I'm assuming would be me. I was, 19 years old, the MTV generation. This is another ridiculously stupid studio note that I don't understand what that means. Because I think I am the MTV generation. I was born in 75. MTV came out in 81. I grew up watching videos, right? Butler probably knows what videos are, but at your age, it probably wasn't as big of a thing in your childhood, right?
Oh, no. I mean, I love the Batman Forever soundtrack, but that's because I listened to it after I saw the movie. I didn't care about music. It's just Batman. It's right. Batman music after that. I didn't care.
Right. So Joel Schumacher comes in and he immediately decides that a lot of the elements in the Bachelor script are too dark, right? And he knows that that's also what the company wants him to move away from. So he brings in Goldsman to rewrite it, and he comes in with the idea that we're going to make a movie for the MTV generation. It's got to be brighter. It's got to be like a lot of neon colors and stuff like that. And this is stuff that we see on the screen. Manster, I mean, you maybe haven't seen it in a while, but watching Batman 89 or Batman Returns and then just seeing Batman Forever, can you very easily pick out the fact that even though these are in the same line of films where everything changes, you know what I mean? The tone is super different in this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like Broadway, big, bright shining lights. It kind of reminds me, although this came much later, Blade Runner 2049. You kind of got that. Just everything's in lights is so slick, and it's still dark in Gotham and kind of greasy and whatnot, but it's still so slick and bright. And Butler, I don't want to say too much.
Butler, for you personally, do you prefer the visual aesthetic of everything, the cinematography, the set design of say 89 and Returns? Or are you more in the eye of the neon kind of cityscape of Forever, and even going past Forever? That's where Batman and Robin ends up, to the fucking nth degree.
Well, obviously, I can't sit here and tell you I host a show about film and say that I like anything about Batman and Robin, other than that Arnold really goes for it. I guess. I mean, I'm not saying that's a great iteration of Mr. Freeze, but watching this again now, looking at it with more of a film perspective, because I haven't seen this movie in a very long time, I still think I prefer some of Tim Burton's Gotham, but it's not real. His Gotham is almost too gothic, but I do see elements of the old school 89 in Schumacher's version. You get those statues, those huge towering statues in the skyscrapers. They just happen to be backlit by blue or pink or neon.
Purple, orange.
Yeah, it's almost like, hey, let's make these 90s. It's almost like a city decided, hey, people aren't coming to this city for tourist attractions, or the city's ugly looking or mean. Let's brighten it up a little bit. It's like putting a Band-Aid on a wound kind of a thing. So I kind of like that. The one thing I really don't like in the design is Wayne Enterprises not using a model when they use modeled on every other city. that old 1990s PC zoom in on Wayne Enterprises at the beginning of the film was just so jarring that I was like, this is a bad shot. This needs to be cut. This needs to go away. I can see. Well, I like both of them over what they did with The Dark Knight and Batman Begins. I love those movies, but that's clearly Chicago. And I love that these three movies, Robin excluded, are Gotham, other than that stupid Statue of Liberty. Other than that.
Oh, the Statue of Liberty. Yeah, that Statue of Liberty is jarring. I had forgotten about that. All right, we're going to get into the cast in 1 second. But let's go real quick. I wanted to go over when this thing was made. So this was filmed from September 24th, 1994 to March 7th of 1995. I read that in two different places. Again, that amazes me because this movie came out in June. So I'm assuming post-production was very quick. It was filmed WB Studios in Burbank, California, downtown LA. Wayne Manor was filmed on Long Island. Two-Face's
Long Island?
Yeah, Long Island, and not Two-Face. Riddler's ridiculous bass at the end, which to me looked like kind of a fake thing, was Alcatraz. They filmed that on Alcatraz Island.
Did they? Oh wow!
I did not know that. So, all right, Manster, why don't we talk about who's in this thing first, and then we'll get into some box office numbers and all that good stuff.
Who is in this thing? You've got Val Kilmer as Bruce Wayne / Batman. Basically, he's questioning his acts of vengeance and struggling with his like dual identity and getting involved with a love interest in this one.
Yeah.
And then you got Tommy Lee Jones as Harvey Dent / Two-Face, formerly the DA of Gotham City. Half of his face is obviously scarred and his brain is damaged with the acid and whatnot. He's basically insane and he blames Batman for what happened.
This is the only iteration of Two-Face where they don't really get heavy into the Marconi or Maroni vengeance, because that's that was his original, that is his origin story. One of the things about this movie that everybody knows that follows comics and comic movies is that Billy D. Williams played Harvey Dent in Batman. Right now, Butler, do you know what they went to do to actually get Billy D. Williams out of this movie? Have you read this or heard this?
Oh, to get him out of it? No, I did not hear that. I knew that he did Batman 89 on the promise of becoming Two-Face.
He was promised and contractually obligated, or they'd give him a contract that if they did Two-Face, he would be Two-Face. Joel Schumacher did not want Billy D. Williams for whatever reason, so he got a pay-or-play deal. They paid him for the role for the movie, and I think it might have been like 2 pictures. So they paid him. He made a nice payday. He didn't do shit. He sat home and drank malt liquor, Colt 45.
45.
And they brought Tommy Lee Jones in. Now, I just want to cover this real quick, too. You just mentioned Val Kilmer. Schumacher was hot on because he had just done Tombstone, and that was, a huge role for him. They offered the role to Ethan Hawke, and Ethan Hawke turned it down. And I recently saw an interview with Ethan Hawke, and he said at the time he felt like, he was, a serious actor and this would, kind of break that down. And he says now he regrets it. He doesn't, he didn't really say why, but he's just like, well, I take more chances now. And it would have been something I could have done. It might've been one movie or an out. But you mentioned Val Kilmer and you mentioned Tommy Lee Jones. These are 2 people that Joel Schumacher never worked with again and vowed to never work with again, because Tommy Lee Jones was, we'll talk about it in a little bit, an insufferable prick to Jim Carrey, and Val Kilmer apparently would go for weeks at a time without talking to Schumacher on set and just being a super fucking diva, which is not surprising if you've heard other stuff about him. I guess he was a nightmare on the Island of Dr. Moreau and other films too. So, all right, who else do we have, Master?
So then we have Jim Carrey as Edward Nygma / the Riddler, former Wayne Enterprises employee, who is rejected by Bruce Wayne. His idea that he had was rejected, so he becomes the Riddler. Then you've got Nicole Kidman as Dr. Chase Meridian, a psychologist and the love interest of Bruce Wayne in Batman.
Can I?
Yeah.
And just a real quick question. Am I the only one that feels like in this movie, Nicole Kidman, she's fine. I've never been a huge fan. Do you guys feel like she's just like a vacuum in this movie? Like, I don't know, like just devoid of any personality. I don't know. She takes me out of like this movie, whether you like it or not, it's one thing. It's kind of dynamic, but she is just stilted, right? You felt that way, right? Right, Master?
She really offers nothing. She's just I feel like all she wants to do is bone Batman.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I will say it's probably she looked fantastic in this movie.
Yeah, but
she is a beautiful woman, but there's something about the way they did her up. I don't know. Maybe it was the way she would look at Batman. She just had some kind of quality.
you know who would have looked better? The original choice for that role. Do you know who it was, Butler?
I do not.
Renee Russo.
Oh, I did know that actually. Damn.
Renee Russo was hired to play Chase Meridian, who is not a comic book character, by the way, and not a cartoon character. This is an original character, which is unusual for these movies. She was hired when Keaton was still involved, when Michael Keaton was still involved. Keaton saw the script for Batman Forever, said this is too cartoony, and bailed. Tim Burton bailed. Renee Russo was going to play Chase Meridian. Even though she's only 6 years older than Val Kilmer, they deemed that she was too old for it to be his love interest. Now,
1990s.
like this is like an okay thing to say to somebody. It's like, yeah, no, I mean, in real life, he'd probably fuck you, but in this movie, it would be totally
it would have been a waste of Renee Russo to put her in this movie.
Absolutely, because she's a better actress. And in my opinion, she's hotter. I'm assuming at probably I don't know, 8 or 9 years old, Butler probably had a couple of nights with his pillow thinking about Chase Meridian. Any kissy huggy moves on your pillow?
Not so much. I mean, she's definitely pretty, but she was never really did it for me. I'm not a blondes kind of guy.
All right.
But I do think if they had Renee Russo and Ethan Hawke was only 23 at the time, that would have been a little
agreed.
He would also have been too young for the role, considering it's supposed to be the third one. It continues on.
And at one point, again, this all gets very muddled. At one point, they thought about making it an adaptation of Year One.
Keaton actually liked that idea, even though he was 3 movies removed.
Right. He would not have worked in that either because he's too old for it at that point. Here I go sounding like one of these executives. You're too old for that. But yeah, so at one point they thought about doing Batman Year One, and that might have been where Ethan Hawke would have worked the best. But you're right, Ethan Hawke was in his early 20s. It would not have worked being, he's playing the same character. You could, even though he's younger, you could see Val Kilmer being Michael Keaton's, continuation. Mm-hmm. Ethan Hawke would be like, what the fuck's going on here? This guy is much too young. Oh, I'm sorry, Master. What else you got?
After that, you got Chris O'Donnell as Dick Grayson / Robin, basically a circus acrobat. His family is murdered by Two-Face, and he basically just wants revenge. And he becomes first he becomes a ward of Bruce Wayne, and then ends up Batman's sidekick.
Remember what I said about personality vacuum? Chris O'Donnell. There is a reason this guy did not really. I mean, I know he's on NCIS LA or whatever for 20 years, but man, oh man. Well, I had not seen this movie in a long time, and boy, he is just, it's not even personality vacuum. He's essentially, to me, the actor equivalent of just like a bag of white rice. Like there's nothing going on there for me. I maybe I'm wrong. Okay, Butler, I'll go this way with you this time. As a 9-year-old, did you want to be Robin? Like, was that like, oh my God, this guy is like the coolest?
Well, I mean, you always want to be Batman, but if you have to, or at least Robin's more relatable in terms of like, he's cool, he's hip. If you talk about the MTV generation, he's what you'd see all the time on Nickelodeon introducing the next cartoon or whatever. He's that guy. And yes, he's not a good actor. He's got that earring. He's got that MTV look. So it's like, oh yeah, he gets the girl. He kisses that girl randomly. Doesn't Batman kiss the girl? It's like, yeah. Oh yeah, stealing the Batmobile.
Oh, he steals the Batmobile.
Awful.
Now, have you ever?
You want to ride?
You ladies want to take a ride in my machine, and then it's En Vogue. By the way, did you know that when he's talking to those 4 women, that's En Vogue from the 90s? Yeah, there's a lot of weird cameos in this. So En Vogue.
I have to admit, I was an En Vogue fan.
Oh yeah, I was.
You wouldn't think that of me, but yeah, I love.
Oh, I was too. En Vogue are those 4 women. The leader of the gang that he fights, the Neon Gang, is Don the Dragon Wilson, who is a kickboxing champion. You can't tell because he's got all the paint on. The woman who plays the the Gothamite reporter, Bruce Wayne, that's I can't remember her name, but that's Bob Kane, the creator of Batman's wife. There's a lot of little people in here. Renee Auberjonois from
he was at the end, right?
Yeah, he was
I noticed
the
that.
doctor.
Like, that's the dude.
Yeah, and Ed Begley Jr., who is Nigma's boss. He's uncredited in that. Now, Butler, I was going to ask you real quick. At any point in your life, even now, when doing laundry, Have you ever like spun it around and then what? Like this is total disrespect for someone's laundry room.
He's being a total dick in that scene. No pun intended.
Come on, give him a break.
Lloyd, would you ever wring out clothes onto the fucking floor? And especially not your floor.
He's got to show off his moves, man.
A dick. I mean, I get it.
He mopped it up. No harm.
He did mop it up. All right.
Al.
Yeah, Al. I was waiting for Alfred to go, you motherfucker.
Yeah.
All right. Who else do we have, Master?
Then Michael Gough, I guess, I'm not sure if that's how you say it, as Alfred Pennyworth, obviously the butler and Bruce's confidant. And he actually kind of befriends Dick more than anyone else, I would say.
Yeah.
Pat Hingle as Jim Gordon, the commissioner.
The only two actors to return from the earlier movies are Hingle and Go.
Yep. George Wallace as the mayor. Then you got Drew Barrymore as Sugar, the good blonde assistant of Tommy Lee Jones. Yeah, she's wearing a white corset bodysuit, looking pretty good in that. She's more of the sweet one, She doesn't really show her sinister side. That's for Debbie Mazar as Spice, the bad, more nasty assistant. She looks more like a dominatrix.
Mike, where are you going? Sugar or Spice?
I'm going Sugar on this one.
You're going Sugar on this one. Lloyd?
I wouldn't normally go Spice. Yeah, I'm going to go Spice.
Yeah. All right, I'll give mine. This was originally going to be one of my likes, but I'll just throw it out there now. My wife could attest, and she'll hear this, and she'll give me shit about this. I have never liked Drew Barrymore. I don't like her as an actress. I don't find her attractive. She annoys me. She's got like that kind of lispy voice and just kind of annoys me generally. I do like the wedding singer and stuff. So she's been in stuff I like. I would hump her until she fucking died. She would die from my thrusting body.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
Thomas going somewhere completely different.
I don't know what it was about this movie, and I've seen this movie. I haven't seen it in a long time, but maybe it was just the other night. Maybe I was just a certain level of tired or horny. But every time she came on the screen, I went, "Wow, Drew Barrymore in this role is really fucking hot." And it'll never happen again because I've never found her attractive otherwise. My wife just finished watching a few months ago that show she did
Santa Clarita Diet.
Yeah, and I would rather be with Timothy Olyphant, which is no secret. I love that guy, but she just doesn't do it for me. So yeah, she was super hot in this one.
I guess I'm the only one throwing Debbie Mazar some love here.
Look, I mean, honestly, I'm not going to say no to Debbie Mazar, but when you got Drew Barrymore looking like this in this movie, you got to go for it.
Yeah. And I'll throw one more in there. You already mentioned Ed Begley Jr. as Fred Stickley, Edward's supervisor at Wayne Enterprises.
Yeah, he has one job in this movie is to seem like he's irritated and just say, Edward.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
He buys it pretty early on.
Yeah.
Uncredited, I guess.
Yeah, no credit. I guess he said, "Fucking take my name off of that," or whatever it was. All right, let's go into before we go into box office. Let's talk Rotten Tomatoes because I'm curious to know what exactly this thing scored.
You want to know, huh?
Yeah, I want to know.
Right. So here's the consensus. First of all, the little write-up: loud, excessively busy, and often boring. Batman Forever, nonetheless, has the charisma of Jim Carrey and Tommy Lee Jones to offer mild relief.
It sounds like
that was relief.
That sounds like a medicine.
Yeah, right. All right. So the tomato meter, which is if it's 60% or higher, you get the fresh tomato, and if it's less than that, you get the green splotch. This one scored a 39%.
So that is a green
39 from 69 critics.
A green splotch. Now, do you have what the fans think of it?
Yeah, so the audience score is even lower, 32%, 609,000 ratings.
Wow.
That's a lot of people.
Does that surprise you, Butler, or do you figure this movie probably ranks about that?
No, I think anyone who watched it at your age is already into the comics if they like Batman or even Batman the Animated Series because that's for kids and adults. That show's fucking awesome. And you're seeing a much more serious Batman, and then everything after Robin is just so serious. People who are younger than me who have only come into it at Batman Begins, they're saying, this is my Batman. This isn't that. That's silly and stupid and not great. So I think you have to have there's a very slim audience for Batman Forever, and they're not voting. They're not competing with the wave of negative reviews for people younger and older.
Okay. All right. So it's I like doing the Rotten Tomatoes. So I like to see what people are thinking. Again, I go back to it every time. I'm still amazed at Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which we did with your podcasting partner Mike Field, which had a good Rotten Tomatoes score. If you, I'm still blown away.
That was high.
Yeah, doing these shows, these TTT shows, really surprised me sometimes. How things have a bad word of mouth, but then like you're like, how? But people like say they love this. I'm still, and again, I was still shocked at the box office of Crystal Skull. I know it's an Indiana Jones movie; it's going to make a lot of money, but it did much better than I would have thought. Thinking. So let's talk.
The angriest people have the loudest voices.
Yeah, that is absolutely true.
That's right.
That is absolutely true. Let's talk box office real quick, and then we'll get into our likes and dislikes of Batman Fever.
All right. So did we talk about budget?
No, good. What was the budget?
Yeah, I got $100 million budget, and in the opening weekend, came in at 52.8 million. Number one for that weekend. U.S. box office for the year, 184 million, and worldwide was 336.5 million.
Yeah, big hit.
So the opening weekend, like we said, June 16th through June 18th, 1995. I'm going to give you the top 6 because I figured 6 needed to be on the list as well.
All right.
At number 6 that year, Braveheart.
Oh, all-time classic. Yeah.
Yeah, 4.1 million. Number 5, Die Hard with a Vengeance.
The last good one of those.
Yep. Number 4, The Bridges of Madison County.
Never saw it. I'm sure it was.
I read the book, believe it or not. When that book came out, I read it.
Butler, have you read the book or seen the movie?
Seen the movie. It's a pretty good movie. Okay. Not for me, but I like it. It's well made.
Good book. Number 3, Casper, 6.6 million.
Casper's my jam.
I was going to say
your jam. I figured
2 reasons. I've never seen it because again, I was 20, but I'm assuming that you love the movie and you probably had a little kid crush on Christina Ricci, right? Because she was like in that.
It was more than little, man.
Yeah.
I still have a little kid crush on Christina Ricci, even though she's younger than me.
Well, she's like, that's the crazy thing about like these actresses, and like it's the crazy thing about time. Like, because Christina Ricci was a child actor when I was younger, you think of her that way, but like I bet you she's 38. You know what I mean? Like, and you don't think about it that way, but she's like a grown ass adult now. It's just you identify her as Christina Ricci. She's probably like 17. No, she's probably like 38. She's probably twice divorced. She's probably, you know what I mean? Like, still making movies.
Yep. And number 2 that weekend, Congo.
Oh, Jesus Christ. That was a bad fucking movie.
Great Congo.
Amy wants donut. It was fucking stupid.
Field's whole thing in that movie is just apple.
It's too bad the listeners can't see all the hand motions there.
Amy wants apple. I saw that in the theaters once. I've only seen it once ever. And because that was a Michael Crichton movie and it came out 2 years after Jurassic Park, that thing was like heavily hyped.
Yeah.
And I remember going to see it with my friends. And even then, because even when I was younger, I went to the movies a lot and I was much more easily impressed with shit. And even then I was like, that was a fucking piece of dog shit. I
hated another book. I read all the Michael Crichton books, but another book I read that year.
You hated it at 8, Butler?
I did. I love the book. I've read it since, but yeah, the movie is just, even at 8 years old, giant monkeys, which I used to love. It's such a bad movie.
Yeah, it's not
Nothing
good.
Redeeming.
That is actually almost a good candidate for your show at some point, because that is truly forgotten. Like I don't remember the last time I even thought of that fucking movie. So
forgotten cinema has to have some kind of connotation of I remember thinking that was okay or good. Like some movies need to be forgotten.
Congo or Sphere? What rate's higher?
Okay, Sphere. But let me tell you this: Sphere is my favorite Michael Crichton book. It's incredible. The movie is dog shit. But the movie is close to the book to an extent. I never read Congo, but that movie was straight dog shit. Like, yeah, I go Sphere.
Andromeda Strain. That was a great book.
Yes, Andromeda Strain is a great book. And you know what else was another great Crichton book that the movie was dog shit? Timeline. You ever see that one?
Yes.
Well, Timeline's not a bad movie. It's just a very straightforward, middle of the run movie.
Yeah, I did not dig that at all. I love that book because it was like time travel.
That's one of my favorite books, yeah.
But it was quantum travel instead of time travel. It was really... Have you ever read that, Lloyd?
Yes. Yeah, I've read them all.
Yeah, so good. All right.
For the dead. All right, so that was 10.7 million. Number 2. Number 1, Batman Forever, 52.7.
All right.
Disparity there.
A lot of people going to see it. Butler getting his children's ticket with his parents and buying his little popcorn and getting all excited to see.
My parents buying my popcorn. I ain't touching that popcorn.
Butler, real quick, well, I mean, you work in a theater too, so you've got like more experience of this. What's your go-to movie snack? What are you getting? You go into a theater, what are you getting?
Oh, popcorn. Just getting popcorn. I'm getting a large popcorn, and then I'm getting my girlfriend a large popcorn. Then I'm finishing my large popcorn before the trailers end, and slowly pushing her popcorn toward my way.
Wow.
Okay.
I love popcorn. That's why I don't eat it at work.
From the Strand, obviously.
Yeah, no, not from the Strand Theater.
Because that is way too salty to finish 2 large popcorns.
Yeah, no, the Strand Theater popcorn is horrifying. So when you're at work, you don't snack on the popcorn?
No, I purposely don't. I don't want to ruin. There are so many movie employees. You'll hear from like Field the same way. So many employees are just like, I can't stand popcorn.
Yeah.
And I never wanted to be like that. As soon as I got hired there, other employees would tell me like, oh, you're going to hate that soon enough. So I made it my business. Don't eat popcorn at work. Only eat it when you go to see a movie.
I need to love popcorn. I don't want to be ruined.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would kill me. It would destroy me.
It would destroy me. A little dramatic, but that's okay. I understand.
This job has killed enough of my soul. It will not take that away from me.
I'll tell you, I don't really have a go-to necessarily. I tend to
you do.
Well, I like the nachos. I like goobers, right? I'm a goober.
Yeah, that's your go-to.
But I'll tell you this, a couple years ago on some cooking channel show, this is probably 10 years ago, I saw a guy do something, and I used to do it, but it's just too messy. You get a popcorn, okay? I have a feeling Lloyd is immediately going to fucking dislike this because I know that I could tell you're going to dislike this. You get a popcorn, nice hot buttery popcorn, and you get a box of either goobers or Raisinets and dump it in the popcorn.
No.
That's a classic movie theater snack. You're actually supposed to do it originally with the nonpareils like snow caps and stuff.
Oh, okay. Okay, so
I'll just eat those all separate. I'm fine with that.
You mix it in and you get these handfuls of like melted goober on your hands and butter. Like again, by the time you leave, you look like you probably ate shit because there's chocolate everywhere. So I kind of stopped doing it because of the popcorn's a certain heat, it just melts away. But man, Butler's right. That is a perfect movie snack.
The grossest movie snack is when you open up the packets of nacho cheese and you take that gelatinous plastic and you dump it on the middle of your popcorn and you try to mush this gel into your large popcorn. That is the grossest thing.
You're making me sick. Just the nacho cheese alone is sickening.
I like the nacho cheese as a treat, but like I would not want it on my popcorn. That's fucking weird.
It's disgusting.
That's fucking weird. We're gonna have you back many times. That's actually a good show. Like weirdest shit you've seen people do in a movie theater. So we'll get back to that.
I got some stories.
And hold on to them. We want them here at Pint of Comics. So Lloyd, what do we have for the whole year box office? Let's get an idea of 1995 in general and see what this thing was going up against.
All right. So in 1995, you had number 10. Die Hard Salad with a Vengeance. At number 9, you had 7.
What's in the box?
What's in the box?
What's in the box?
I love the movie 7. I know some people that don't. But.
It's great.
At number 8, you had Casper. At number 7, the original Jumanji.
Never saw it.
And all these that I
never saw it. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's a good with Robin Williams. Oh man.
Yeah, never saw
it. Did you ever see the new ones?
Nope, because I never saw the original.
You don't really need the originals to watch.
You don't need them, but they're both good.
Maybe someday.
Number 6, GoldenEye.
With a golden eye. Yeah, it was Tina Turner did the theme song on that one.
One of the best James Bond video games.
Oh, absolutely.
The
best James Bond video game.
Yeah, it was.
That's what I meant. The best.
Revolution. I mean, again, we're talking with the guy from Two Player Bros, where they discuss video games every week. That's a revolutionary video game. Like, that's a first-person shooter classic. A couple years ago, Mitch Halleck did CT GamerCon. He does that every year. And I went down with Lou, and Lou's a big gamer. And I had a Nintendo 64. I used to play GoldenEye. It's never great at. I'm never great at any video games, but I enjoy them. Me and Lou sat down and played like 3 rounds of GoldenEye, and he bent me over and fucked me raw because I couldn't stop him. He was like the Russian woman from the not Xenia Onatopp, like the love interest, and
Natalia,
he's blowing me away with Natalia, and I'm like Bond.
Yeah, you were his Drew Barrymore.
That's right. He was porking me like I'd pork Drew Barrymore in Batman Forever.
All right, so then at number 5, a movie that I could care less about, and it might give away a little something, but Ace Ventura, When Nature Calls.
Oh, the sequel. Yeah, not nearly as good as the first one.
It's got some when he bursts out of the hippopotamus. I'll never forget that scene.
That scene is pretty awesome. It is pretty awesome.
Number 4, Pocahontas.
Ugh.
Number 3, a great movie, Apollo 13.
Houston, we have a problem. Yeah, that's a great one. I know what number 1 or 2 is going to be. I'm picturing it now. So this is 1995. Toy Story is 1 or 2.
All right. Well, yes. What is it called? Box Office Mojo. They do a weird thing where you have in-year release and then total release. So I did it as in-year release. So Toy Story. I'm sorry, Batman Forever number 2 at 184 million, and Toy Story number 1 at 191 million.
Wow.
Even though only a little part of it was released in that year.
Yeah, it came out in November. I remember seeing Toy Story in the theaters and having my fucking mind exploded because it was the first time you encountered Pixar. And then I remember going to see like Bug's Life a few years later and having my fucking mind exploded. Incredible. All right, let's move on.
Great movie.
It's so great. Let's move on to let's do a couple likes. We'll do a couple rounds of likes, and then we'll hit dislikes, and then we'll go to our rating. Let's start off with Mr. Butler. Give us one thing that you particularly like about Batman Forever.
Oddly enough, the main thing that struck me right off the bat, even though he hated one of them, is the chemistry between Jones and Carey. The dichotomy between Two-Face and the Riddler is fantastic, even though Tommy Lee Jones called Jim Carrey a buffoon. He could not tolerate his buffoonery.
Yeah, right.
No. That just shows how much of maybe an asshole he is, but also a consummate professional, is how well they work together. It's just fantastic.
He couldn't.
Why do you hate me so much?
Yeah, it wasn't. He couldn't tolerate his buffoonery. This is my favorite part: is when Jim Carrey tells a story. He says that Tommy Lee Jones saw him. They saw each other in a restaurant. Jim Carrey approached him to just talk to him. Tommy Lee Jones, he said, looked like he was going to have a stroke. Grabbed him by the arm.
Oh, I know what the word is.
Walked him away and said, "I cannot sanction your buffoonery."
Yeah, sanction. That's a great line.
It's such a Tommy Lee Jones thing to say too. Like you can hear it. You can hear him saying it exactly like how
it's better than anything in the whole entire script.
Yeah, it's pretty good. So Butler, liking these two guys together, this is a problem a lot of people have with superhero movies in general. And they did it in Batman Returns. So do you dislike or do you not care about when a superhero film starts throwing in multiple villains?
Normally I dislike it. I think especially with Batman lives and dies on the quality of his villain. But in this case, they work so well together, and the way the film is done, and it's almost harkens back sometimes to the 1960s Adam West Batman, and you need that kind of camaraderie between your villains in this case. In Batman Returns, it was also okay because Catwoman was also kind of an anti-hero, not so much a villain. But in most films, it just absolutely, like, look at Spider-Man 3. Look at what a mess that is. There's so many times that you do multiple villains and you're going to lose something from some of the villains. In this case, I am sad that you don't get enough Harvey Dent. You do get a lot of Nigma becoming the Riddler, but you don't get anywhere near enough Harvey Dent. And I think that hurts the movie a tiny bit, but their relationship is just so great that it's okay. It overcomes that.
If they came to you tomorrow, if you're in charge of this movie somehow, you're an executive at what is this again, WB, and they say, okay, we're only going to use one of the two, and we're going to refashion the story, who would you rather see, Riddler and again, played by these actors? If they got rid of one, who would you rather see it as the villain of the entire movie?
With this quality of film, if going with this style, you'd have to go with Riddler, because Two-Face is a much darker character, and if you stuck on him, he would have to become a darker character. So going Riddler would keep in line with the Schumacher vision, I guess, or what Warner Brothers probably wanted at the time.
Okay. All right. Manster, I know this might be hard for you. Give us a like of Batman Forever.
I get a little bit hard.
I can read your fucking mind, dude.
I'm not really hiding it. I liked the circus, the Two-Face attack in the circus, I think was probably the best sequence in the whole movie. When he lost his family. Robin's origin story, I think that was pretty good. The acrobatic stuff was good, and that's probably my favorite.
All right, so you like some of the action sequences. All right, I'll go with I like a lot of I prefer the first two movies, the visual, and we kind of talked about this in the beginning, but I like a lot of the aesthetic of this movie. I guess what they were going for was less Art Deco. They were going for more neon, bright colors, early New York City from the 30s meets modern at the time, 1995, which would probably be very close to 2020 to an extent, Tokyo, which you could kind of see. It's very crowded, very sprawling, it's disparate. You know, there's a lot of different things going on. I like the look of Gotham City. I actually like the aesthetic of the movie because it kind of is almost like they took the 66 Batman series and injected it a bit into this. My problem with it is that this isn't the first movie in a series. So if they had never made Batman 89 or Returns and came right out of the gate with this to begin with, I'm not saying that I would maybe like the movie more or less, but it's jarring going from the first two films aesthetic to this because it doesn't match. It's like, okay, but if this was the first film out of the gate, I'd go, okay, very cool. Like this is what Gotham should look like. My problem is even though I like that, I kind of go back to Returns in 89 is what Gotham should look like. But I do like the art design. I do like the look of the as dumb as it is, like the neon gang. Like that's kind of cool. Yeah. It's very comic booky, right? And more so maybe than even Returns in 89, this feels the most like a comic book. You know, you could picture reading this story in the pages of a comic book, of a Batman comic book. That's something I dig. Butler, what is another like in your on your list? Mine
would have to be also the circus attack. There's so much stuff in that attack that just really is something I would look for in like maybe a Batman story. The fact that Bruce Wayne, Val Kilmer as Bruce Wayne, stands up when he's told people are going to die if you don't announce your name, and he immediately goes, "I'm Batman," is just the most heroic thing I've seen Batman do in any of the movies, really. It's just like he just gave up his life, and no one hurt him, luckily. Right. But imagine if somebody in that crowd, the 5 people around him, hurt him. Like, his life's over anyway. Dick Grayson taking the ball, the acrobat scene, the fact that he's on this high of being a hero, pushing the ball off the circus tent, coming down just to see his parents splatted on the ground. It's just... That's like, oh man, that's a gut punch right there. And obviously you get Two-Face hamming it up, and you get the Riddler watching this on screen already like, or at this point he's still Enigma, just completely unhinged watching it going, yeah, fuck him up. And it's just like, I really like that. And the aesthetic of the circus is just like you said, you get some of that Tim Burton-esque stuff, which is a lot of that neon and this 60s more so than anything with the because of the circus vibe. That 60s aesthetic going on. All
right. And interesting, you guys both brought that sequence up because I didn't even know this, but they added the character of the older brother, which is not in the comic. The older brother is played by Olympic gymnast Mitch Gaylord, who also is Chris O'Donnell's gymnastic stunt double in this movie. So a factoid I had no clue of.
Oh, that's cool. No, I didn't know that.
Manster, can you dig deep enough to give us another like?
I probably got 2 more.
Okay.
Yeah, I kind of dug the Batmobile. You know, it captured the feel of this particular universe, the gothic look and the neon look, you know, with the way they had like the slats and whatnot going around. You know, watching it rev up into gear was pretty cool. And so, yeah, I like the Batmobile.
It made for a great toy. That was a great Christmas present.
Yeah, right.
All right, so let's be honest, though. Like, whether you like it or not, Butler, your answer first. 89 Batmobile, which is the same as 92. There's some differences. Or this one.
Oh, man. I have to go 89 Batmobile because
okay.
89 what kid doesn't want that 89 Batmobile? Like, the Batman Forever one's cool and shiny, but you're not driving that actually fighting crime. 89 Batmobile has got some guns. It's got the bomb on the front. It's still got the cooler thruster on the back, and it makes hairpin turns with that giant hammer that just goes down on the ground and spins it.
All right.
Yeah. Plus, I've seen it in person a couple times, and I know I want that car.
I was going to not let you answer because I was going to say, if you answer fucking the neon Batmobile from Forever, you're immediately wrong, but that's okay. You went the right way. Manster, you as well would go with the 89?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
I just like this because it fit the aesthetic of this particular scene, you know, this universe.
Now, I wrote a note down as I was watching this movie the other night, and I think this is fun. I think this would work. A drinking game for Batman Forever. You have to drink an entire beer or do 2 shots every time the Batmobile either rises or lowers from its hold. How many fucking scenes every time someone walks by the Batcave, it comes up? Like, what is the fucking point of that?
It's awesome, and it probably cost half that $100 million.
When Robin, now you're thinking to yourself, okay, I get it. If someone accidentally finds the Batcave, they're probably going to figure out pretty quickly what this is. But then you have it set so that your fucking supercar comes out of the ground to really, really fucking solidify the fact that this is Batman's home. When he falls down those stairs and he hits the bottom, it comes up again. And I'm like, fuck this thing. There's got to be 7 scenes of that thing coming up and down out of that thing automatically. When the Riddler finally blows it up, I'm like, thank fucking Christ, this thing can't come out of its pit anymore. So that was another Manster-like. All right, well, I already mentioned that I really would bang Drew Barrymore in this one. Oh, you know what? I'll tell you what I like. I have this written down here. I like the look of the Batsuit. They did not fuck the Batsuit up in this one. The ending Batsuit, that sonar thing, is kind of goofy, but I like the one he wears through most of the movie, the sleek black, and they go back to the molded ab look from the first movie instead of like the slat look that the second movie had. But the thing I like the most about this costume, and it is the most visually different thing from the first 2 movies, is the cape. The cape is much more sleek and lightweight looking, and it just looks like
aerodynamic.
It looks like when he's fighting. There's one of the scenes, I think, when he's fighting, I don't know, the Riddler's goons or someone's goons. They take it over Batman shot, and he's doing like spin kicks and stuff, and the cape is really moving around him. And the cape in the first 2 movies was cool too, but I think it looked a little bit heavier. Obviously, in the first movie, Michael Keaton couldn't even move his head. He's just he's got to do all this shit. This, I just thought, when because that is like got to be like not the first thought, but like you're making a new Batman movie, one of the first thoughts has to be, we could really fuck with the suit. Like we could make the suit this way or that way. And they did that in Batman and Robin. Yeah. And they do this at the end of this movie, but they kept this one pretty classic.
Cape technology took very big strides in this movie.
In 1995, Cape technology went way up. All right, let's do one more quick round of likes, and then I know you don't want to do this, Butler, but we're going to start hammering the fuck out of this thing. So, Butler,
I don't know.
Give us one more like, Butler.
The score. I really like the score of this movie. I love the Danny Elfman score. I love it. It's forever Batman's theme music. When it played in Justice League, as flawed as that movie is, I was like, fuck yeah, Batman, go get him. But in this movie, I really like the da-da-da-da. Like, it's just like, it just fit. It was still, because I know that Schumacher said, make a new score. I want a new score. But I really feel like they still kept with the aesthetic of Elfman's world and the heroicness of Batman by just taking out some of that gothicness of it. It still is a very, very good score. And I noticed that he did leave the Batman score at the very end where they're talking to Chase and they have that gothic theme. Batman's 89 Batman's notes are in there in one part in one of the cues, and I was like, oh, snuck it in anyway. Fuck you, Schumacher. But I love the score either way. I think Batman Forever score is very, very solid superhero theme.
And I didn't write it down. Who did the score for this? Do you know?
I do. If I can get past my notes. Oh, hold on. I have it.
I actually always assumed it was Elfman. I thought he came back.
It is not Elfman. It is... Here we go. Elliot Goldenthal, who's a very solid composer. He's done Demolition Man. He did Frida, Interview with the Vampire. So, I mean, this is a guy who in the 90s has done some pretty big movies.
Yeah.
And that score is, obviously, I think Lloyd probably disagrees because he's out of likes. I think the score is very solid.
All right. Manster, what's your last like?
I didn't put the score as one of mine. Although he's in the background for the most part, he's still the ever-present guy there, offering reassurance to Batman and the audience, Alfred.
Yeah. Michael Gough is an awesome actor. He was he actually starred with Val Kilmer in a favorite movie of mine called Top Secret, the Abrams Zucker World War II spoof. If you've never seen it before, he plays Val Kilmer's character is trying to rescue him. He's a scientist, and it's just, this is like 10 years later, and yeah, he's very good in this. He's very solid.
Yep, that's mine. That's my last one.
All right.
Definitely at his most Alfred, I think, out of all of them. He's got more sage advice in this one than the other ones.
Agreed. All right, my last one is kind of something I touched on quickly before, but I'll just reiterate it again. This one, out of even the first 3, so Batman, Batman Returns, and Batman Forever, this one feels the most like either a comic book come to life in terms of I could picture this plot the Joker or the Riddler putting a box into every home, taking over the brain. This could either be a comic very easily, or I could picture this being an episode of the animated series. You know, because you get into Batman Returns and Batman 89, it's heavier. They're both heavier. Again, Batman Returns is just like, you know, Tim Burton just said, fuck it, I'm doing what I want to do. And, you know, it gets dark in a lot of places. This one has the most, I think, appeal to kids. I think this has the most appeal to a broader audience, right? Even though it's whether or not it's trash, tolerable, or treasure to me, this is definitely not my favorite of those three. But I think that they, you know, maybe it was the wrong way to do it by saying, oh, Tim Burton can't make another one because it didn't sell enough Happy Meals. But in the end, opened up the world to you know, these movies to kids like Butler, who, you know, if you were 7 when Batman 89 came out, you know, you might have gone to see that and gone, what the hell did I just see? You know, when you're looking for, like, you know, maybe a little bit of lightness, and this one provides that. So I guess this one just hits a wider audience.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's a like of mine that they did that. It doesn't mean it endears it to me, but I like the fact that they did that. All right, Butler, it's time. Let's go around a couple times. Hammer on this fucking thing. Give me something.
Chase Meridian is the worst written woman I've ever seen on film, I think, or at least one of them. Her first scene, all she wants to do is hump Batman for no reason.
That's it.
I want to hump Batman. She's a fucking psychopath, and that's my first note was, what's wrong with this woman? She is not Vicky Vale. She is not. Selena Kyle is less psychotic, and she dresses up like a cat dominatrix and murders people.
And there's no chemistry with her and Val Kilmer.
None. He just goes to visit her because he wants to bone her too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And their dialogue is so stilted. And not that the dialogue's great in this movie for Val Kilmer, or maybe it's Val Kilmer's fault. I couldn't tell during the whole movie, but it's just every time she's on screen, it's just, you are A, a bad doctor, and B, a poorly written female character.
Right. She's supposed to be some brilliant psychologist, right?
She's supposed to be.
Come on.
It's just how women were written in the 90s. And it's something we bring up on Forgotten Cinema all the time. It's just, come on, write them like a human being. Don't try to write them.
It's unfortunate. It is really bad.
I'll just jump in on that real quick. One of my notes for dislikes was the relationship between the two of them. Why does he love her? Like, there's nothing to love about her. Like, he's going to tell her he's Batman because he's falling in love with her. What does he love about her? Does he
think she's hot? That's it.
I get that.
That's all. That's all there is.
She wants to bone Batman. But wait, now she wants to bone me? Maybe we could have some kind of weird threesome somehow with the suit? I don't know.
Yeah. I could wear just the bottom of the suit. You know what I mean? And like the cowl, and I don't know. But like, really,
and
it's
when
like
he when he kisses her, or when she kisses him with his Batman cowl on, and then she says, no, there's someone else, and he turns away, walks away, and he smiles, and it's the goofiest looking non-Batman smile I've ever seen. It was disgusting.
I kind of like the smile because I feel like that smile's so bad because it's like he never smiles. It's like RoboCop trying to smile.
All right, man, sir, give us one.
Well, I was certainly irritating with the stupid jokes, and I'll get drive-through and the Chris O'Donnell jokes, and you want to ride with me? All that stuff was horrible. There's so many of them. There's so many bad jokes. What was it when they're crawling up the island at the end? Holy
rusted metal, Batman.
Oh my God, this is so fucking horrible.
I actually, because every
single joke was bad.
I remember that from when I had seen this, I hadn't seen this in probably 15 years, and I had seen it a few times before, and I know what they're going for. That's from the 66 show, but that was so forced and unfucking funny. Like, yes. It was so unnatural, and not even just forced. It was unnatural. Stupid.
Oh, but you'll get it again. As soon as they introduce Robin in one of these other movies, they're going to go for that.
Yeah,
I can do it, but I can do it better. I swear. It's going to be just as bad.
I'm going to go for another one, too. That was just sort of to throw out there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think I'm going to go against what Butler said here. I just saw Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey as two villains who were basically locked in this struggle to overact and be obnoxious and outmug for the camera for each other. Tommy Lee Jones was so underused. He didn't even really speak most of the time. It was mostly like, like he would look in the camera and he'd make these stupid little gaggy sounds. It was fucking horrible. He was not Harvey Dent. He wasn't of two personalities. They were both crazy. All right, next.
All right. Masters of, we're coming back to you, Master, but all right, I'll go because I echo a lot of what you guys just said, but I will go with Val Kilmer.
Yeah.
Val Kilmer, right? Top Secret, right? Genius. Real genius. Tombstone, genius. Heat, genius. This guy is a good actor. He is not a good actor here. Now, you might say that's direction. That is very possible that part of this is Schumacher's fault, but trust me when I tell you, a large part of it is Kilmer trying to play Bruce Wayne a certain way. Michael Keaton, whether you're going to say that they hit the notes of Bruce Wayne as it should be from the cartoon and the comic, that's not even what I'm talking about. Michael Keaton had a personality. Now, yeah, there's little bits where, you want to get nuts. That's a little bit over the top for Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne is supposed to try to play it a little bit more unflashy, not flashy, so that, not to draw attention to himself. But Val Kilmer actually falls into a coma doing that.
He does.
He is literally, there are points in this where I wanted to know if there was a doctor on set to know if he was a fucking wake in certain scenes he was acting in.
He's such a dead fish in this.
He is so monosyllabic, drone, flat. These are the three words I wrote down while watching this. He easily could have been better than Keaton, but he wasn't even close. And I like Keaton, but if you're going to put Keaton's face up against Kilmer's before 89 ever came out and said, who would you choose based on looks to play Bruce Wayne? You're going with Kilmer every time because he's the classically good-looking guy. He's built a little bit better. Generally, I watched at the beginning of this week when I was in my little COVID lock away for a few days. I rewatched The Ghost in the Darkness, which is a movie I've always liked a lot, and Kilmer stars in that. And this is a year after Batman Forever. And he's really good in it. Now, he plays an Irishman. His accent disappears constantly. Okay, that's fine. But he's really good in it. He made Heat concurrently to this movie.
Yeah,
filmed at the same fucking time. And he's awesome in Heat. He is so fucking bad in Batman Forever. And he comes along.
He could have been so good. He has like this weirdo charisma.
Yeah,
that he could have tapped into, but he didn't.
There were moments that he actually showed. Like, I like the scene where he meets Ed Nigma the first time, and Nigma tells him that no, that doesn't work for me. Well, I'm sorry, Ed. Like, he kind of comes across like kind of a dicky businessman. Okay, cool. But like,
I think that was probably his best moment in the film.
It truly was.
What you just said. Right?
It truly was. He felt like he was at. Maybe that was the day of filming that he said, "I'm going to try." Every other scene with him in it, the scenes between him and her, it's like, fucking shoot me now. Okay. And when he puts the bat suit on, it's slightly better, but it is not that much better. When he's Bruce Wayne, it is the worst thing on earth. They should have called it COVID-95 because it was as much of a pandemic as this is that we're dealing with right now. Terrible.
There are two scenes where one's a scene, one's a shot. When he stands up and screams, "I'm Bruce Wayne, Harvey, I'm Bruce Wayne," that's some real emotion.
Yeah.
And then there's a deleted scene where he finds the diary, his father's diary, and finds out it wasn't his fault. I don't know if we're going to get into the expanded edition or not.
We can talk about that at the end.
But he really emotes, and that's a cut scene. And it's like, well, that's a shame because he's like crying. He's actually emoting. But Batman lives and dies by how you play Bruce Wayne, not Batman. Any motherfucker could play Batman. I could go and play Batman. You put me on some stilts, obviously. But Keaton had a personality. Christian Bale, I think he was an okay Bruce Wayne, but you never got to see enough of him as Bruce Wayne. He was so brooding all the time. Ben Affleck, you can hate the movie all the time. I think Ben Affleck did a fairly good job at separating his two.
I think so.
Yeah. Batman's got to have a duality to him, and Kilmer just decided Bruce Wayne, Batman, Bruce Wayne. Easy paycheck. All right. No emoting.
All right, Butler, give us another dislike.
Oh, you're making me hate on my childhood right now. I would say the Riddler's outfits, his constant outfit change, and the skin tight dick suit that he wears when he blows up the Batcave. It was too much for me when I was a kid, and it's too much for me. I don't need to see his balls the entire time. and that weird, almost dress-like mad suit he wears at the end when he's on the throne, just even for his over-the-top character, felt out of character for the Riddler. That's something I would assume like the Joker would do or something like that. It didn't even fit within this universe's Riddler, the costume changes. It was clearly, let's sell action figures, but they didn't even make action figures of that as far as I know. So it
Right.
made a lot of sense. And I always thought it was dumb, even at 8 years old. Like, just keep the first costume, man. It was classic. It worked. Let's do that.
Yep, I agree.
Agreed. Manster, you got another one?
Yeah, we already went over most of mine, but I'm going to just go a little more with the Riddler and Jim Carrey. I don't feel like he bothered to act in this movie. He's just basically hyperactive, Jim Carrey mugging for the camera. I know he did a lot of ad-lib stuff, Spank Me, Joygasm. I don't know, that stuff just doesn't work for me. The Riddler, the way he played him, it's not the Riddler. I don't know what it was. It was something else, like Butler was saying. And this one I just have to pick on a little. Of course, you just have to suspend your disbelief. But where the fuck did he get the funding and the materials and the time to make his fucking lair? Are you kidding me?
Well, the money all
Oh
came
my
from
God.
robbing all the crimes, with Two-Face.
Okay, but
you
how
have
does
to
he get
imagine it
done?
took place like five to 10 years later. Yeah.
Right. I work in the manufacturing industry. Nothing gets done. Not like that.
My last dislike, I will ape yours because it is very much the same. Okay, so I like Jim Carrey. I always have. I like 1994 Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, Jim Carrey. Still a classic movie. Dumb and Dumber, a classic movie. I'm not a huge fan of The Mask, but a good movie, and he's good in it. I like that kind of hyperactive, funny, over-the-top Jim Carrey, right? I also love Eternal Sunshine Jim Carrey. I think,
Yes.
we got, he can act, right? So I'm going in this from a point of saying I like Jim Carrey. I fucking hate Jim Carrey in this movie. He's so, like you said, the first several scenes where he's Edward Nygma, I like him because he's acting. He's being Edward Nygma. He's this guy, he's, down on his luck. Nobody notices him. It's very much like I listen to Butler's partner Field has the podcast with Pat Whalen, yet another Marvel, yet another MCU podcast, right?
Well, we don't advertise for the for Field right here. He's got his time.
Well, what I wanted to say was something that I never really, I guess, put together until listening to a lot of the episodes, is that a lot of the Marvel MCU films, the villains are people that have been spurned by Tony Stark. And that's the case here, is he was spurned by Bruce Wayne. So that's what makes him a villain. And you get to see kind of his personality in those first couple scenes. And he's good. Then he becomes the Riddler and he's air humping everything. He's spinning his fucking his cane around everywhere. He's laughing. He's saying joygasm. He is fucking completely unhinged. I understand this is 1995 Jim Carrey. He's starting to make $20 million a movie. He's probably telling people on movie sets what he wants to do, and they have to listen to him. And a lot of it, I'm sure, was ad-libbed, as you said. But my God, for someone who likes Jim Carrey and not having seen this movie in a long time, if he turns to the Riddler in 45 minutes, if it takes 45 minutes for him to come out as the Riddler, within 10 minutes of that, I didn't want to watch him anymore. I fucking hated him. I was like, and then he's just such I could almost see why if Tommy Lee Jones, especially if, as we know from his documentary about the Andy Kaufman movie, if he's a method actor, I could see why Tommy Lee Jones is like, fuck this guy. I cannot deal with this dude. I just want to go in. I'm 60 years old. I want to go in my fucking trailer. I want to, get a pedicure. I want to take a nap. And this guy is sitting outside of my trailer going, riddle me this, Batman. Go the fuck away. It's lunchtime, Jim Carrey. You're not Edward Nygma. So I was super annoyed at the fucking Riddler. Super, super annoyed at the Riddler.
I sanction that.
All right, so we're going to end our dislikes there. I'm sure we can hit more, but that would
I don't want to hurt Butler's feelings.
That we don't want to hammer.
Have you talked to Mike Field? Have you seen the episode? He has we just recorded something where he kind of liked what I picked, but he has nothing I pick all the time. It's a running joke.
Yeah, that's his goal.
Yeah, I do.
It has been for like 15 years now.
I do notice that is that it doesn't seem like he ever agrees with you on stuff you like. So we're gonna go and we're gonna rate this one of the 3 T's. Trash. Is this thing truly trash? Is it tolerable? Is it okay? Is it treasure? And then at the end of the show, after we rate it, I'm going to read off a couple of our friends from Twitter, what they said about it. And then we're going to go real quick, and Butler is going to talk a little bit about this expanded edition that has been kind of creeping around ever since Joel Schumacher died back in June of this year. So let's start with the man of the hour. Let's start, I guess, on what probably a very positive note. Let's go directly to Forgotten Cinema's own Mike Butler and find out if he thinks 1995's Batman Forever is trash, tolerable, or a treasure. What do you got, Butler?
As someone who watched this film at the age-appropriate 8 years old when you're supposed to be watching this film, when you're not jaded by film, when you're not someone who can read the comics, the Batman comics, even in the 90s were starting to get kind of dark, this is absolutely a treasure. I grew up watching 89 and Batman Returns from when I was probably way too young to watch them. Like from when I can ever remember, I watched the VHSs. I wore them out. I had those action figures with the clip-on cape and everything. Forever is just as good, in my opinion, in terms of like for a kid, for 8 years old. Now, watching it now, yes, I still see things I don't like, but I see a lot of stuff that as an adult, as someone who enjoys film, as someone who is an actor, maybe not so much an actor. I mean, Jim Carrey and Tommy Lee Jones are having a great time. The design of the city, the way it's shot, the canted angles whenever you see Riddler, and the slow zoom takes on some things. I think this film is lit well. I think the set design is great. The lighting is great. I think there are moments that are good, and I think it's really playing this yin and yang, more like you pointed out. This is the antithesis of a studio mucking things up in some ways to sell action figures, to sell Happy Meals, and it sold them to me. It did what it wanted to do, and like you said, this is as close to a comic book. This is as close to something like the animated series that you'll see on screen live action, and I don't think Batman will ever go back to this, especially after the travesty that is Batman and Robin.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
I mean, Batman and Robin just takes everything that you guys didn't like about Batman Forever and just goes, this was the only good parts about Batman Forever. But I think Batman Forever really toes the line between the two. It does sometimes go over. I will admit, I like Jim Carrey in this, but he does sometimes go too far. But I think overall, this is a different kind of Batman movie that are still a lot to like. I wish they had kept some stuff that was from the quote-unquote Schumacher cut. But I think overall, with all the studio interference, as pain in the ass as Val Kilmer was supposed to be on set, and Tommy Lee Jones, and I'm sure Jim Carrey in character, I think this movie does what it was supposed to do and more. And I, still watching it to this day, liked it, watching it as an 8-year-old.
All right, so you give it a treasure.
I got to give it. I was borderline. Am I going to think this is a treasure anymore? I was afraid. But yeah, I'm still going treasure. But I can see
Still there.
This is one of those movies where, we did a 2-player bros for the new Marvel's Avengers game, where it's like me and Dave Cannon, my co-host. I was like, I like this game a lot, but I cannot argue against any points you have about this game, and he just shit on it. I can't argue against anything Lloyd was saying about this movie. I get it.
The whole point of us doing this sub-series of shows is that's your personal opinion, and that's how you feel about it. And nobody's going to try to change your mind. Yeah, we've done a few
bringing different perspectives to the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. We say that on Forgotten Cinema all the time. Film is subjective. You know, one man's art is another one's trash, and vice versa. You know, as long as it gives you an emotive feeling, that's what art is. So,
Manster, why don't we go to you? Triple T. I think I know where this is headed, but let's find out. I've been surprised once or twice. Let's find out.
I don't always. I maybe look like I'm going one way, but I don't always do that. Well, I do appreciate a lot of things Butler was saying. The city, the look of the city, the gothic / neon stuff. I do like that. I couldn't find enough to actually like. I sit through the movie and I don't want to go to the end. I just want to turn it off. So for that reason and for all the things I said, I'm going to go trash.
I really thought you were going to go treasure. I thought you were going to go 180.
All right, that leaves me. Yeah, so when it comes right down to it, like I said, there were things I liked about it. There were things I didn't like about it. But I got to go with the experience that I had the other night renting it. I didn't, first things first, is one of the biggest clues to me was that I have a huge DVD collection, and I went through a long period of time where I bought a lot of stuff, even if I kind of like, oh, it was okay, I would buy it or be a completionist. I don't have this in my collection. I went to look and I'm like, I wonder if I own that. I don't own that. That was a sign to me. And then the second sign was when I put it in, or when I rented it and watched it on Wednesday night. It was just a completely like, it was one of those viewing experiences where I was like, I'd rather be editing a podcast right now. I'd rather be almost doing anything else. This movie, it's so devoid of personality. The acting across the board is bad. In terms of like the big notes, like Nicole Kidman. You know, okay, I get it, Nicole Kidman. You want to have Batman's dick in you. That's if that's your motivation, great. What else do you have for me? I get it, Val Kilmer. You're asleep. Go see somebody about that. It just was not the experience. You know, and I kind of thought, okay, we're going to go into tolerable territory. This is absolute trash for me. I did not enjoy this. I ended it off and I said, you know, Butler kind of made jokes with me. And I knew he was joking, but because we had a delay in doing this, we had to pause. He was like, "Oh well, I'm going to watch it like 5 more times anyway." I've been
watching this film every day, at least once a day, sometimes 3 times a day, ever since you first posted this movie to me.
Oh my god!
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. A hard time
I have been kissed by a rose so many times, you have no idea.
You know what? I actually want to go back and throw that one of my likes. That this movie it was on one of his albums, but this movie popularized "Kissed by a Rose," which I love. It's a great song.
Field hates this song because I like this song, I'm sure.
Field, you're fucking wrong. It's a great song. And so thank you, Batman Forever. And also thank you for, I'm not a huge U2 fan, but what was it? Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me. That's a good song. Oh, yeah. So 2 trashes and a treasure. Let's go to some of our friends out there in the Twitterverse. So we got our buddy Dino at Podcast. He's going treasure. I'm going treasure. It was fun before everyone took this shit too seriously. And that is a good point because we are in a time where, you know, we look at these superhero movies as something more than what they maybe really are. And, you know, now it's suddenly, you know, well, this didn't really make too much sense, or this script. This was back when these movies were still supposed to be a little bit of fun. The Contrarians, another podcast at Contrarian Prime. Man, I don't know about Treasure, but I like it a lot. Like others have said, it's not trying to be like Burton's and take it as its own thing. It's very entertaining, its own cheesy way. Our friend Keith at Geek Time Network, who's been on the show several times, it's over the top, loud and goofy, after the darker tone of Burton's first 2, but it's tolerable. It's the next film in this franchise that's so trash it killed the series, which is also true. Our buddies at So Wizard Podcast just put up a little video, a GIF of a guy throwing a piece of trash into the trash can. Great Song Podcast at Great Song Pod. Not familiar with them, but very cool they answered.
This had great songs. This better be a treasure.
This did. They spelled it out with like 5 E's at the end. Treasure.
Ooh.
Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, another great podcast. Tolerable in its good moments, but it tried to be too much like the TV show. And then I found this very funny. At Forgotten Cinema, tolerable. This was Field, by the way, and he wants us to know that Butler doesn't speak for us unless he says tolerable as well. Then he does speak for us. And then Butler rang in with my tea shall be the approved and official tea. For that
sanctioned tea. This
is the sanctioned tea for Forgotten Cinema, which they will stand by for this day and all days, as did Fields for Crystal Skull. We had some pretty disparate. There were treasures in there.
Didn't somebody else have a GIF of a dumpster on fire floating down?
That I don't think that was. Yeah, I don't think that was on this one. But no,
maybe that was Robert Barron's. It was the reply to another one.
Okay, let's see. At Goonie Dracula, who again I've never heard of before, but apparently they saw this treasure. So the treasures are especially from the Twitter community, are out there.
They're coming out. Don't be afraid anymore, guys.
I bet you. Okay. I bet you all these people were born between 86 and 92. But
you have to. Like I said, that if you could
I don't
be
think
too young.
Any of them was
born
born in 66.
Yeah, none of them were born in 75 or 66 or anything like that. But hey, that's super cool. Now, Butler, before we leave, let's talk real quick about some of the deleted scenes and things that they're talking about now, because this is the thing we do now with the Snyder cut. They're talking about putting together a Schumacher cut of this thing. So what's some of the stuff? And from what I heard, even though he wanted to brighten it up, his original cut was darker.
Right. He actually told Akiva Goldsman, he said when he got his first script, he said tone down the lightness of it a little bit. So what he got was even goofier than what we got. But it is a darker movie. The beginning of the film showcases Two-Face escaping from Arkham Asylum. And we open the door to find one of the security guards hung and gets sucked up into a ceiling fan with his head hitting the metal over and over and over again. And painted in blood is the words, the bat must die in blood as the lights flicker on and off and on and off.
Wow, I can't even picture that in this movie.
You can find these
really
deleted scenes on YouTube. It doesn't, because the security guard's also alive, because he keeps hitting his head, so he's like just unconscious. So I don't know whose blood that is. And then the main point of the story is the whole thing is Bruce Wayne having these nightmares, these daymares, because he has them during the day, of him having this red notebook. And he even tells Chase, there's this red notebook and it's new and I don't remember it. And this notebook says what he remembers, a note from his father, his last diary note, saying, going to see the show tonight because Bruce won't stop pestering us to see this show. Yeah. So Bruce now has this guilt that, oh my God, I killed my parents. So he always had the sadness over his parents' death, but now he's racked with this guilt that he never had before. And the movie starts to explore, oh, wait, maybe not, maybe not. When Bruce gets shot in the head, he wakes up, doesn't have much memory of what's just happened lately. He doesn't remember quitting being Batman, but he still doesn't remember much. It's that part of it's kind of cut out, so it's all conjecture from what I read online. What you get in the deleted scenes is Alfred tells him, oh, you quit being Batman, Chase got captured, maybe you're afraid because you haven't faced have all these nightmares because you haven't faced your fears. So he goes into this hole in the cave, like the Dagobah cave, and he finds in this spot of light his father's diary where he originally fell through the hole. He opens the diary page. He finds in the diary page the actual last entry, which says, going to the show tonight, it's what me and Martha want to see. Bruce is going to have to wait. We really want to watch this show. So they dragged Bruce along to this movie, not the other way around. And he has a moment. Val Kilmer actually emotes.
Oh, okay, good.
He starts freaking out and going, it wasn't my fault. It was my fault. Tears actually go down his eyes, and he's all like happy and stuff. And then he stands up and there's this huge fucking bat, which is
I've heard of this.
Looking.
I've heard of this. Yeah.
So the bat that's in his nightmares is actually human height, and it was actually made by Rick Baker, which is pretty awesome.
Oh, cool.
It lands in front of him with its wings outstretched, and Bruce Wayne kind of just looks it in the eye and slowly stretches his arm out to meet the arms of the bat. And then we spin around the bat a bunch of times to show that Bruce Wayne is becoming Batman. And he leaves the cave confidently like, yes, I'm going to be Batman. So we kind of get a reason why not just Chase was kidnapped. Bruce decides, where's my sonar suit? Let's get this going.
Okay. So do you think, as a fan of the one that we got, do you think that if they jammed all this stuff back in there, that it would improve it for you? Or do you just think it would be a different experience for you?
I think it would be a slightly different experience. I think people that are finding no real emotion or no real theme to the story, which I always say theme is one of the most important things to a movie, this really expands upon the theme. I would still like to see some Harvey Dent stuff, because every Batman movie, you need to see the creation of these villains. But I think that would definitely help. And there is rumor that there might be some Harvey Dent stuff out there. But even Warner Brothers says there is a Schumacher cut. Can we find it? They don't even know if they can find it in their archives. But it's there somewhere, maybe.
That's so crazy. That's so crazy that there's so much film and so many movies out there that like people lose track of this shit. Like you would think it would just be in a room somewhere and they would go, okay, alphabetically or however. But it's like, no, it's just gone.
Well, now that it's like, now we're in the age of digital, it's so much easier. I mean, at least it's better than the days of like when Doctor Who was filmed, where they just absolutely recorded over history.
Yeah.
And you don't get them anymore.
Right.
But Field and I have talked a couple of times in the podcast, like with all these director's cut becoming a new thing, like the Snyder cut and all this, making a big deal out of it. Why not release your theatrical cut and every Blu-ray, every DVD, no DVDs anymore, fuck DVDs. Every Blu-ray, every digital copy comes with the director's cut. They've done it anyway. It's finished. Let them have this director's cut version of your film and let them have the regular cut.
Yeah, it's a good idea. I love to watch director's cuts. I've seen many director's cuts that aren't as good as the one we get in theatrical.
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
And then there are ones like
they always want a release, another anniversary release, and release the extra cut. And
how many Blade Runners have there been? 5, 6?
Yeah,
exactly.
I got the last Blu-ray set and the DVD set that came in the briefcase that had like 4 different cuts.
Yeah, I got that too.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. Like there's one of them's the work print cut where like certain scenes aren't finished. It's like, okay, I guess that's cool for I love Blade Runner. I'm a huge fan. It's like top 5 movies.
Me too, yeah.
But in all honesty, I've never watched the work print cut because I just I don't know. Do I want to just cut to a scene where it's just some guy standing, in like this futuristic city, but he's it's just some regular dude that's like a placeholder shot? I don't really know if that interests me or not.
I think you really have to be in the mood. Like even someone who dreams to be in these big films like me, you don't want to see him uncut. You don't want to see him raw. But sometimes, just once or twice, you're like, I wonder what, I want to get a peek behind the curtain. And sometimes it's interesting, and sometimes it's just really boring to watch movies that aren't finished.
Yeah, agreed. All right, Manster, why don't you give out all of our stuff, tell everybody where they could find us, and then we'll head over to Mike, and he could talk about his 16 different podcasts.
Yeah, you guys got coffee going, or you got caffeine pills?
Yeah, it's going to be another 10 more minutes. Go check out our website at pintocomics.com. Subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, all the podcatchers. Check out our YouTube channel. Ring the little bell for the notifications. And on Facebook and Twitter, it's at @PintOComics. On Instagram, it's at @Pint_O_comics. And you can hear Sir John on the radio on Sunday nights at 6:30 on WESU Middletown, 88.1 FM. WESUFM.org.
Butler, thank you for coming back on again. You've now been on a Pint Movie Invitational, 100 Proof, and you've been on a TTT. I think you might be I don't know, I could be wrong.
Trifecta?
You might be the first trifecta guest we've had.
Oh my God, I am honored.
Wait, I take that back immediately. Field beat you to it because Field did the TTT.
That motherfucker.
Yeah, he did the TTT before you.
You know what? Put me on a Pint of Horrors. Put me on a Pint of Horrors, and I will beat his ass.
Yeah, you know we haven't had anybody else on one of those. We'll have you on one of those.
He doesn't even like horror movies, so he's out.
Well, we have some other stuff coming out in the future. So
yeah, we've got another one that we haven't uncorked yet, so that's going to be fun. All right, tell everybody about all your good stuff.
All right. Well, first of all, the biggest one, the reason I'm here is because I'm on Forgotten Cinema. It's a podcast where we look at films that for some reason seem to be forgotten by audiences, whether it be because a more popular movie was released at the same time or the film simply didn't catch on with an audience in its initial run. We discuss what we love about the film, maybe don't love about it, but we always recommend you revisit it. You never know when you might find your next forgotten gem. That's available wherever podcasts can be found. And we're on the social medias at either Forgotten Cinema Pod or Forgotten Cinema. Our episodes come out every Wednesday, and we've got we think they're awesome. I mean, we work hard on them. Commercials that come out every Thursday for our episodes.
They are awesome. We've said it here before, but they're awesome.
Yeah.
I've also got Crackin' One Open, a podcast I do with my fiance Elise, where it's a podcast about brews, news, and pop culture reviews. Join me and Elise every Friday, where we take a deep dive into a local or national or international craft brew. We talk about the beer, the history of the brewery, the history of the beer, what's in the beer, hop notes about how these hops came to be, and then we do some tasting notes. And if we have time, we go over the latest pop culture news and reviews, what we're looking forward to or what we're watching. That's Crackin' One Open, available wherever podcasts can be found. And then I've got Two Player Bros, a podcast I do with my buddy Dave, where we take a look at video games. We're PC, VR, Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo Switch. We have it all. We play it all. And every other week we do a post game presented by Two Player Bros, where we do a deep dive into a modern classic or new release, where we talk about a little bit about how it was made, our thoughts on the game and story. That's also available every Thursday wherever podcasts can be found. And I do books on Audible. Go check them out. Michael Butler. Sour is a great horror book. Coffee at Midnight's a great short story book. Help me feed my fiance and pay the rent for my apartment so I can get to the movie theater and buy these books.
All right. That sounds very doable. I will check those out. I always wanted to get into Audible books. It's one of those things like podcasts where it's like I'll only be able to listen a little bits at a time, but maybe I'll give Sour a try. That sounds pretty cool. All right, so thank you again, Mike, for coming on. And Manster, why don't you drag this episode of Pint of Comics out to the backyard and tie it to the tree and tell the kids to go inside because Daddy has to take care of something.
See ya.
It's over, Johnny. It's over. Nothing is over. Nothing. You just don't turn it off.